Ladies and gentlemen, it happened. Today we got the reveal for Black Ops Cold War Season 1, and it is big. We basically see everything. We see new maps, we see new weapons, we see new characters, we see the backstory of the new characters, and this all happened because of today's reveal. So if you didn't know, yesterday I was sent a package by Activision and Treyarch. Inside the package, we had this little radio and a map and some other things, and using this, we actually got to decode some things today, which led us to a website and led us eventually to the trailer. So we're going to break down this trailer in a bit later in the video, but first I actually wanted to dive in and show you how we got to the trailer. It's going to be relatively quickly, and there's going to be timestamps down in the description. So if you want to skip to the trailer and want to skip to the breakdown, check out the timestamps, but seriously, it's going to be worth it because in the Easter egg that we did, there's actually some things about Season 1 as well. So let's dive into that. So as we talked about yesterday, there was a website called 673-763-436-741.com. Now, when the countdown timer ended from yesterday, it asked you to enter the first sequence. Remember that radio that I showed you before? Basically, when we went to a certain frequency, it gave us a numbers sequence. Now, this is the numbers sequence that it gave us, what you are seeing right here. Now, on top of this, they also gave us the set of numbers that you are seeing here, and a bunch of them were scratched off. So if you started at the numbers that were not scratched off, and then used those, so you threw in those, for example, you can see that they kind of matched up. And as you can see, once you subtracted them, it would give you a number. So the first one that we have here is 115 minus 99. That gives us 16, which is an equivalent to the letter P. An easier one to see is 86 minus 85 is 1. The first letter of the alphabet is A. And what this led to is the word payback. And as you can see at the very end, they cancel each other out, give you the number 0. So the first word that we have is payback. When you type this into the website, it took you to the next section and it says user authenticated Inkslasher, the time that you're doing it at, and then it eventually led you to something saying video feed live, which was actually a live stream on Call of Duty YouTube channel. Basically, their YouTube channel changed to a numbers broadcast and gave us many more numbers. So essentially, the next set of numbers is what you are seeing here. Then we took the numbers from the chart, the next numbers. So basically every single time we did this, I just scratched out the next section of the numbers. As you can see, the next section was this one here. And we basically used that starting with 8482 and then once again subtracted. And then what we ended up getting from this was what you are seeing here. Stitch is coming. And as you're going to find out, Stitch is the next operator that is being added with Season 1. So if you go and type in the next sequence, I just misspelt it, but if you go Stitch is coming, it then kind of decodes some things and gives you an entire bio on Stitch. It tells you that he was born on August 14th, 1938, and then gives you an entire background on him. Now, most of this background we're actually going to see in the trailer, but essentially the parts that you need to know is that he was a KGB operative and he was working for Kravchenko. At one point, he gets captured by the CIA and interrogated by Adler. At this time, Adler stabs him in the eye. We're going to see that in the trailer, and then Kravchenko turns on him, and now Stitch is basically a super evil character. The next one it gave us was called Remote Control. And this one essentially played for us a little RCXD game, and when you actually played it, you could actually jump through and you could hit these little boxes, which were actually Nova 6 gas. This is going to come into play later. After this, the next code was interrogation, and once you typed in interrogation, it kind of gave you this blurred screen, which eventually goes into focus, and then you can see that it is actually a layout of Nuketown. Now, whether this is a layout showing us this because we know we're getting Christmas Nuketown coming soon, I'm not exactly sure, but they show it here nonetheless. It's kind of strange that they included this. The next clue that we have is called Vodianoy. Vodiania? I don't know how to say it properly. But once you type it in, this one is really weird. I think this is the Caspian Sea we have here. I'm not 100% sure. But as you can see, there's either a ship or an airplane going up north, and then all of a sudden, the transmission crashes, and what it shows us is once again a little beacon that says Nova 6, or what was going to say Nova 6, and then there is an error, and it said the file directory is corrupted. Now, after this, the last code that we have is called Zorzenia. I don't know how to say it properly. Basically, it's the island that Rebirth Island is on. When you type this in, Basically, a bunch of numbers pop up. The numbers, what do they mean, Mason? And then it takes you to the trailer, which we're going to watch now.
Adler has some pieces of the puzzle, but doesn't know he's a piece himself. He won't live long enough to work that out. I won't show him the mercy he showed me. I was in charge of the production of Nova 6 on Rebirth Island. I answered to Colonel Kravchenko himself. I was loyal, my star ascendant, until the Americans found us. That's when I met Russell Adler. He could not break me.
Tell your boss, this is for Weaver.
For letting Rebirth fall, Kravchenko sent me to Gulag, where I found my true calling.
He's trying to bait you, Adler.
No shit. But if we don't stop him, civilians are gonna die. Do it. What the hell? He's manufacturing Nova 6 again.
Kill the rest. Adler is mine.
All right, so there's a lot here. So we start out in Berlin, once again in a CIA safe house, assumably owned by Adler. The power goes out, and Stitch, which is the new character who we're going to look at more in a second, breaks in. There is some people here, they die, and then Stitch walks up to a big bulletin board, just like we saw in the campaign. Actually, extremely similar to the one that we saw in the campaign. Now, we get our first look at Stitch, but after this, we see on the board some interesting things. The first sticky note that we have here is Nova 6 is gone, and Chatter says no. Which means that people think Nova 6 is gone, but really it isn't. This comes into play later. The next note that we see says Kravchenko and Stitch allies or enemies, as we're going to find out. They are most definitely enemies. Now, after this, on the wall underneath the sticky note, we see a piece of paper with Dragovich, Kravchenko, and Steiner, all of which have a stamp on them that say KIA, which we know isn't true because we see Kravchenko in Black Ops Cold War, and he's alive in Black Ops 2. So obviously, this intel is very, very off. The next one is the most interesting sticky note to me. It says Wood's BFF is missing. So you can assume that his BFF is Mason, and that could explain why Mason currently isn't an operator within Black Ops Cold War within the multiplayer, which makes me think that in future seasons, we might actually get an answer to this. Now, after this, we zoom in on a piece of paper that says Operation Rebirth 1968 and zooms in on Rebirth Island. Now, this basically confirms that the Rebirth event that's going on in Warzone is indeed going to be Rebirth Island, and this is our first look at the map. Looks very similar to Alcatraz from Blackout, with some big changes, buildings being the main one, but there is that still the big building in the middle with surrounding buildings, and it's on an island. So I'm assuming it's going to play very similar to Alcatraz that we saw in Blackout, which is super exciting to me, and I can't wait to play it. So after this, we get to hear Stitch's backstory. He was actually in charge of the production of Nova 6 gas at Rebirth Island, sent there by Lev Kravchenko, the general. Now, at this time, he gets captured by the CIA, specifically by Adler. Now, what's interesting about this is you can see Adler torturing him before he pulls out a knife and says, "Tell your boss that this one is for Weaver." This is referring to when Kravchenko in Black Ops 1 stabs Weaver in the eye. So Adler does the same thing to Stitch, who is working for Kravchenko. Now, what's interesting is at this time, Kravchenko actually disowns Stitch and sends him to a gulag. And in this time, someone breaks him out. We don't know who that person is yet, but as assumably it is Perseus, but basically in the intel that we see on the computer, it kind of confirms this. But I'm gonna have a video on Stitch going up in the future, probably after Season 1 launches. So at this point, we see our second new operator who is standing beside Adler. Her name's Xenia. I don't know how to say it properly, Zeyna, and this is basically going to be the second operator that's going to come through a bundle halfway through Season 1. Now, at this time, you see Adler kind of looks younger, which doesn't make any sense because this actually takes place later in 1984 after the campaign. But maybe it's just because he's not wearing sunglasses here. After this, we see a message left for Adler saying, "Time we end this," and a flyer for the mall. At this point, they say they know this is a trap, but they have to go because people are in danger. And when they get there, people are certainly in danger. This takes place in January 21st, 1984. And at this time, Woods, Adler, the new character, and a new skin, seemingly an armored character, bust into the mall. Now, at this time, they find inside a whole bunch of barrels of Nova 6 gas, which means it's back, and of course, Stitch is producing it, just like he did on Rebirth Island. Now, at this time, they get ambushed, and the elevator door opens, and lo and behold, inside is none other than Stitch. Stitch ends this by saying, "Kill everyone," and then the trailer cuts. So some things you may have missed is new weapons. So when they bust into the mall, it appears as though Xenia, or however you say her name, is holding the Groza, which is the new assault rifle coming to the game. On top of this, we can see a new skin on the left-hand side. I'm not sure exactly who that's for at this moment, but it's basically the armor that they wear in the KGB mission of the campaign. So we'll have to wait to see who that one is. Now, at this point, behind Xenia in the next scene, you can see Woods in kind of a new skin with a winter hat on, some snow goggles, and on top of this, he's holding a very small weapon, which appears to be the Mach 11, which is the rumored SMG that is going to be coming out in Season 1. On top of this, later when Stitch busts through the elevator, you see him holding the new shotgun known as the Striker. We don't know if that's what it's going to be called in-game, but this is the first time we've seen it in a cutscene. So 3 new weapons, presumably the 3 new weapons that are going to be coming in Season 1. So what I have to say here is that this trailer is awesome for so many reasons. It's once again tying in the story of Black Ops 1, with Stitch being the creator or the maker of the Nova 6 gas at Rebirth Island from Black Ops 1. This ties together Rebirth Island coming back in Black Ops Cold War or in Warzone as a brand new map, which I think is really, really, really cool. On top of this, Stitch ties into Adler's story because Adler tortured him, took out his eye, and now Stitch wants revenge on Adler. It's going to be really interesting to see how this story plays out. I'm interested to see if we get more of a cutscene or more teasers throughout the next week because this season does not start until December the 16th, and I'm really interested to see where it goes. So that's basically everything we know as of right now. The maps, including the mall and Rebirth Island, the characters, including Xenia and Stitch. On top of this, a new skin for Adler, a new skin for Woods, 3 new weapons, a whole bunch of new stuff, and that is that. So I tried to break it down as quickly as possible. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it's always appreciated if you hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, want to stay up to date on everything Call of Duty, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We're getting closer and closer to 1 million subscribers, so if you want to be a part of that, be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, peace out.
We are reaching for the stars, but we're making it.